we're waiting for it to start. They said 10, but the problem is the video's there, but the problem is they're not. It's 10 o'clock, 10:10 actually. Someone just called me to remind me. Busy doing this. So, yeah. We're waiting. I can't do anything about it. I can't make it go faster. It's just waiting. So I'm waiting for it. I can't do nothing about it. No, this is totally Coop's fault. It is Coop's fault. So while we wait for the shit show, I will. I don't know what I'm going to do. I honestly don't. So, and if you don't want to hear this, if you want to hear it directly from South Carolina without the commentary, go look up the South Carolina archives, because that's where it is. If you don't like the commentary, don't watch the channel. I got a couple comments from people saying, "Oh, we don't like the commentary." Well, fuck you. I don't like you. Yeah.
Morning, everybody. I'm going to call this conference committee on the H3594 legislation to order. Just so everybody knows, Senator Martin is with us. You can't see him. This one? It says his own, right? Maybe is that?
Did y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes. Can you hear us?
All right.
Yep, good.
Yeah, I
All right.
apologize.
Here it is.
I just got my nose stopped bleeding, so I'm not in good shape today.
No, I need coffee is
All
what
right.
I need.
I told you about fighting without gloves.
I know.
Okay, well, we thank you for being here with us. We're going to proceed on, if that's okay with you, Senator from Spartanburg. I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so
yes, I'm sorry.
No problem. You can stay on mute. We're not going to do anything that you won't like, I'm sure. So we're going to go forward. We're going to go forward with taking up the sections of the bill. We reviewed them when we met last week. I think everybody's had some time to think about it, talk to their respective bodies, and come back. And and unless there's some objection, I think we'll just start at the top and just sort of go through the sections as they differ through the bill. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Okay. The first one I have is in section 3. And it's Senate language that clarifies that it doesn't actually have to be a courthouse or a courtroom, but it could be any public building that court's going on at. So if you got a temporary courtroom or that kind of thing, or some municipalities that actually meet in city council chambers and not actually in a courtroom. Anybody have a problem with going with the Senate version on that? All right, looking at everybody's heads on that, so we'll ask staff to check that off as Senate version. The next issue, the part that I see is polling place on election days. And it adds the word days just to clarify that, we've got a lot of places that act as polling places, but if they're not actually that day a polling place, then there's going to be no restriction. Everybody okay with that? Okay. The next one talks about the office or business meeting of a governing body, school district or municipality. It clarifies whether, again, I guess whether they're meeting their actual office or they're meeting somewhere off campus at an actual meeting. I think everybody's okay with that as well. Yes, sir.
If I can make a statement real fast, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great measure here. I think we could do some more, such as airports down the road. So that's something that we're going to address on the House side, and we'll work with the Senate as well to look at those areas.
Okay. All right. Very good. The next one that I see, and staff, y'all please correct me if we skip over anything, talks about churches, but it adds unless permission is given by the church authority. So if the board of deacons or whoever's in control of the church building has authorized guns, then that's an exception.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's the current law. And what we did there was the current law allows for an exception for doctors' offices. It allows for an exception for churches if you have permission from the governing authority there. And the House version took out those exceptions, and then they put in a generalized exception at the bottom. And so what the Senate version was, it took it back to the current law.
Okay.
So I think that's what those changes are there that you're going over now. It's just keeping it at the current law.
Okay. All right. We added the hospital in with the doctor's offices. Again, with the exception unless authorized. Again, with
DJ
the
Coop,
residence or
essentially,
dwelling
if you wanna
place
jump in.
unless
No,
authorized.
that's okay.
So we just took it back to current law.
I'm gonna go get some coffee, so
on
just
those.
be aware of that.
Um,
I'm gonna let this run.
Next thing is everybody's good with that so far? Okay. The next one goes on down then. It's Senator Massey, this was your amendment, and I think it's a may only may issue. Is that what it is? I mean, this is the wording. One of them says may only, and the only one says only may.
I think that's right. This one was part of a larger amendment, I think, but that change in this section is only that verbiage.
Yeah, and I don't personally don't see any. I guess maybe we could ask staff which one legally is it only may or may only is one more clear or commonplace in statutory construction. All right. Anybody?
The idea here, of course, was that if you to ensure that if you carry into a business that has the no concealable weapon sign posted, that it's a trespassing violation, as opposed to the other offenses. If you carry into a school, it's a different offense, right? And that's current law too. We had an initial amendment because there was a misunderstanding. So we had an initial amendment where we changed that. This amendment went back and fixed it. So it's an attempt to keep the current law.
Okay. Well, one says pursuant to, and one says in compliance with. One says may only, and the other one says only may. To me, we can almost flip a coin on that. I don't know that unless it's from a drafting point of view. All right. Anybody got it?
On that, I mean, if we can take, if the House kept the language as it is in current law, I'm fine with doing that.
Okay. Is that what happened? All right, we'll go with the House language on that.
Y'all go with that?
Okay.
Yeah, that way there's no change, so we're not signaling anything to the court on something.
Okay.
The intention was to keep the current law.
All right. Then the next thing we move on down to, is it some house? Is this House language?
Yep.
All right. So we have some additional House language that do not apply to a person given permission to carry a firearm by the property owner or person in control. That's the generalized language that I think Senator Massey spoke about, that we went back and put it section by section. So it's probably superfluous at this point. Is that the idea? I'm at the bottom of page 5. It was the generalized permission language, and we went back and added this particularized permission language at the end of church, business, home.
Yeah, this may even be an expansion to ensure that property, I think.
Senator, if I could,
Yep.
I think the intention from the House perspective was to ensure that private property owners are able to control fully the ability to carry on those premises, and to ensure that if that permission were given, that carrier would then not be subjected to the penalties.
All right, well, let me just go back and just ask. So, for instance, if we go back to the exceptions on the prior page, say school or college or daycare center or law enforcement center, would this apply to those places or
So if we're talking about private property, that's one thing. But I think the generalized provision, the general provision that was included in the House language, and I suspect this was done inadvertently, but I think it would allow school boards to allow schools to be carried in schools. It would allow a clerk of court to allow people to carry into a courtroom. And so that's why we tried to go back to the original law on that. But as far as like if it's somebody's house, then I don't think we're going to have a problem with letting the homeowner decide whatever
Right.
on that. What I don't want to have is have a bunch of outside groups light up a school board in Spartanburg County about, hey, we need to do this, because we've seen a bunch of people up here who they've been in real campaigns and they're buckled under some pressure. A school board member under that kind of pressure will absolutely buckle. And if we want to make a statewide policy that guns should not be in schools, then that ought to be the statewide policy. I don't want to allow a local to undo that. Now, if we're talking about private property owners, even whether it's your home, whether it's your business, whatever, then they can do whatever they want. I don't have a problem with that.
Right. I appreciate that. I think I was reading into the language here, private property owner, and that clearly is not here. And without free conference, we can't put that there. So I would think we probably could be okay with taking that out.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
yes, absolutely. Representative
Yeah.
Cox.
To Senator Massey's point, that was the original intent of the House version. There are federal areas and locations that you cannot carry in. So this essentially looked like we were trying to subvert federal law. So I think the clarification is good, and I think we could be willing to do that. We just wanted to protect private property was the big thing. So
I don't think you get any disagreement from us on that.
Okay, so we'll strike section 6 on the bottom of page 5 by agreement.
I'll go with whatever Bobby said there for Brad.
Okay, all right, thank you, Senator. All right, moving on, I think to section 4 on page 6. It set up a increasing penalties for second and third offenses. Such that a third offense even would be a felony. The House language is just that the penalty is misdemeanor. If you get charged with it 6 times, it's still the penalty each time. But the Senate language increases the penalty. Does anybody want to address that?
I think having different penalties for repeat criminals is a good thing.
Senator, I tend to agree with you, but for the federal law interplay with firearm possession, and when you're at this second offense, and acknowledging that with our expungement process, the likelihood of PTI and these processes playing out, we're really talking about somebody who's been around a couple of times. My concern would be that under subsection 2, which is nominally a second offense here, because it carries 3 years, someone may lose their right to carry for a possession-based offense, and that doesn't seem to be the best result.
Well, as you, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, is it Senator from Edgefield?
I don't mean to cut him off.
No problem.
With Mr. Caskey finished.
Yes, sir.
As you said, so the House included language in the bill that ensures that a first offense is always expungible. That is not under current law. So a second offense here is really a third offense. But as you also indicated, I think most likely what you're going to have in these situations is someone is going to use PTI if they don't have another record. So this could very well be your fourth offense. In any event, it's going to be at least your third. because of the expungement provision, and we didn't take that out. We left the expungement provision in there. So look, I understand the consequence with federal law, but I mean, if you do the same thing 3 times, it's not an accident anymore, right? I mean, it's not a mistake at that point. I mean, so at some point, there's got to be a graduated level of penalties to get people's attention. I don't want to punish anybody who does the right thing. I don't want to punish any good guys, but I also don't want to have sympathy on people who are repeatedly breaking the law. And so that was the intent there. And it does say second offense, but because of the language that y'all included, which we did not change, that the first offense is always expungible, then it's going to be at least a third effectively. So if you do it 3 times, I guess I don't have a whole lot of tolerance for somebody who does it 3 times.
Representative Caskey.
Excuse me, Senator Massey, I tend to agree with you. And if this were a time-limited circumstance or a time-specific window for these offenses to have occurred, I think I'm right there with you. But in this case, it's not unforeseeable to me that somebody, through inadvertence or mistake, carries in the wrong place, and then through whatever reason happens to carry into, for example, an airport. I mean, we could get reports from the airport. I know the Columbia airport seizes guns from people right now regularly. And I don't know how we could be any more clear as a nation that guns can't go in airports, and yet it happens. And so my fear is that somebody who makes a mistake in, say, their early 20s, should be straight and narrow from then on out. But all of a sudden, they make another mistake. On that third mistake, though, perhaps decades later, they've now lost their ability to carry a gun. And I just don't think that's the intent. And if we were in a position where we could impose a time window, I would be more optimistic about using this graduated language. But I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on this.
Representative Bamberg.
One thing that the House version prevents, I think, or takes into account is selective enforcement. And I understand what Representative Caskey says about folks losing their gun rights, but there are people who have lost their firearms rights and are hoping for a pardon or the restoration of their gun rights. They were convicted and finished their sentence 20 years ago, right? So there are a lot of areas we can work on that, but I'm thinking about selective enforcement in terms of whether it be along racial lines or socioeconomic lines. And what I mean by that is the difference between, say, one of us who says, hey, we have something going on, we're going to carry and yada, 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 or that successful business person, when they get caught and they're more likely to get a pass versus that poor country dude from rural South Carolina where maybe he's ruffled some feathers and they want to get him. Having it as a misdemeanor, as the House version is, will effectively protect people from the imperfections of society at present. It's just my view.
Well, I'll just say that as somebody who does this all the time, all they're going to do is if you're bumping up against your third offense, you're going to go hire a lawyer and get it pled down to a first offense, so that it shows. I mean, that's what we do in many cases. Would be burglary, second offense, or
I'm back with coffee.
You often go to solicitor and say,
And we got
you got some weak evidence here, but we'll plead it back to a first offense. Same thing is likely to happen here if it really is one of those situations where it's been multiple times out. But to Representative Bamberg's part, I mean, everybody can't afford a lawyer, and some people are going to end up without a lawyer or with. And I'm not saying this anything bad about public defenders, but they're just overworked. So I see both sides. What do y'all want to do?
Well, look, I
started out with coffee. So I'm
Senator Spartanburg?
thinking of
Yeah, I was just kind of agreeing with the House right there.
I'm going to turn it down a
So
little
is
bit.
there any way we could just leave that? And I apologize. I've got stuff in my nostrils, and I apologize for the bleeding. But I don't know, I sound weird, but I'm not bleeding anymore, so that's a good thing. Is there any way just to leave it as a misdemeanor? I mean, if we have problems with it, we come back. It becomes a big problem. But I I just don't want to let something like this really get in the way of a good deal.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
We just,
All right.
I'm chewing.
Yep.
What do you
You
need?
actually sound fine. You may think you know, but you
Right,
sound
right.
okay.
Volume on the video is gone.
okay, thank you, Brad.
All right.
yeah,
What?
I was going to say before the Senator Spartanburg's comments,
Is
I
the
was gonna
volume not
say,
working?
I mean, I'm willing to work on some language to put a time limit on it. I don't think we can do it in here because of the free conference scenario. But I think it's got to be in here, and then we work on a time limit, as opposed to not having it in here and trying to do
What?
it all together. Because frankly,
Can't hear you.
I
But I
don't-
can't hear the video either.
I don't trust outside groups, and
Plug your microphone
We
in.
had to do. We couldn't address felons who possess weapons without doing something different, because there's going to be opposition to it. And my concern is, if you don't do it in here, then there's no way you're going to get to repeat offenders, because they won't let us do it. And we're going to have too many people who are going to buckle under that pressure. So, I mean, I'm happy to do it this year. I mean, if we can work on something and we can try to get it up and try to address that this year, I'll support that. I'll try to push it on the Senate side. But I do think this has been a problem. This is something that, so SLED has asked for the penalties for felons in possession. They also asked for this. They just didn't get this with the initial request. But having people who are repeatedly breaking the law has been an issue that SLED has struggled with. And you know, I mean, to Representative Bamberg's point, I mean, the felony provision is not effective. It doesn't come into play until your fourth offense. And I just like, I'm willing to give anybody a second chance.
How about now?
As long as you don't hurt somebody.
Yeah, I can hear you
But
now.
after 3 or 4
My
times,
headphones
like
goes up
I'm
crazy.
just not sympathetic to the idea that it was a mistake anymore. So I guess I would prefer that we keep the language in there. I'm not going to vote to take it out.
Well-
But I will
Looks like
commit
that.
to
Looks like I hear you.
our House friends, to
Finally.
senators, and to the world
Yeah, well,
that
look down my
I'm
headphones
happy to
goes.
work with whomever to try to put a time limit on it, and I'm happy to try to do that this year.
So
Oh, I found out this-
from Edgefield, I agree with you. This would be an easy enough fix. We can find any number of bills coming through to amend to say that within, this is X violation within 10 years or within 15 years,
Yeah.
whatever.
Let me turn this
Time
down
limit.
a little bit. All right.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, though. If we don't put it in, we'll
I
never
found
get
out this
back.
morning these
If-
jackasses in
If we do
Alabama
put it in, there'll
introduced
be
an
enough
assault
pressure to
weapons
get back
ban.
to it, to fix it and time limit.
Do you think
then
it'll
we can
pass?
do that. And so
I don't think it's got
I
a chance
will
in hell,
vote
but
with
if
you
I get
not
a
to-
chance to go
to
testify on this, I'm sure as shit
go
goes.
with the
Mhm.
House version. So if y'all want to just pass over that for a minute, or do you want to actually vote on that now? Yeah, sure.
My goal here is to see our state become the 20th state to have a constitutional carry. I don't want to lose this bill over this provision. Senator Massey, I can't even count the number of times we've talked about this, and you have been truthful and honest and forthright in all of this. And I recognize the voting dynamics that exist in your body. And so I'm not going to insist on some provision that might cause us to jeopardize it, or especially not this provision. I think there are some other provisions I might have to insist, but I respect your opinion and appreciate your commitment to trying to resolve this in a way going forward. So, Senator, unless we need to vote on
No,
it,
well, let's just say we're going to adopt the Senate version with everybody's commitment and understanding that we are going to find a vehicle in the next sometime this session to add a time period, at which we can discuss at a later time, whether that ought to be 10 years or 15 years or whatever, to say that to get to your point, that if you had 2 when you're 20 and now you're 50, it doesn't catch up to you just because it's that many years later. But I think that's a fix. If we adopt this language now, we can fix
That's
it.
fine. And look, I'm happy to look for another vehicle. I'll introduce something this week to address that. So we'll have multiple vehicles moving, and so we'll find a way to fix
All right.
that.
Well,
Thank you.
we'll keep that Senate version, and we'll keep moving then. So the next one that I've got is
basically what a committee, a
The
conference committee
reportable
is.
theft
Basically,
language, I
they can-
believe,
They can
taking it
go
from
back
30
and forth
days
and
to 10
discuss the
days,
changes
and
that were
as
made on both sides
some
and
have
try and
discussed
reach
earlier. It's when you knew or
a
should have known.
dialogue and
So
an avenue to go forward.
if you didn't realize
Yeah, they're
it was
trying to
gone, you
reconcile
don't have an
everything.
obligation to report until you find out. And then you got 10 days,
Because
which is basically
Both
a
sides.
week and a
It
half.
doesn't matter whether you're a
and,
Democrat,
we are
Independent,
the
or Republican.
stolen gun capital.
Everybody
of
who's
the
been for
world.
constitutional carry has
So,
been hounding
I think we
these
should
guys.
stay at the 10 days.
And
Representative Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll comment
yeah,
on
they
this.
know that
We
people
appreciate
want
the
it.
dialogue going back and forth
You
on
know,
this.
Mom's Demand Action may not
as
want
we
it, but that's
debated on
like
the
20
House
people
side,
from out of
responsible gun
state
owners, even
compared
if
to
there's
like
not
thousands of people that
something
have
in
to
place in
work
law,
every
if
day.
you get your gun
that
stolen
want
or lost, I mean, a responsible gun owner is supposed to report it. You know, I have all my serial numbers. I know where the guns are. They're accountable. They're safe storage when not in use. So this was the version from the House that we wanted to encourage that. But I want to let everyone know that this is not a penalty. It's something that it's encouraged to do. And so, and then, like the chairman made a good point, 10 days versus 30 days. Once you find it, it's a little bit harder for police to track that down. So we appreciate
how you
working
doing,
with us
Coop?
on that.
All right. Well, we'll stay with the 10 days
I'm
then.
doing good.
All right.
I'm trying to
Now we're
read
down
these
to.
And I want to
Yeah,
emphasize on
bills
that,
in
that it's 10
Alabama
days
right now,
after
and
you
it's kind of
discover
making
that
my
it's
head
been
hurt.
stolen, right? We're not trying to get anybody in trouble
Yeah,
on
you
that,
think
but
you think
but it
you'd
only
understand
applies after
Alabama, but
you
maybe if
discover
it
that
was
it's been stolen.
Arkansas or
Right.
Kansas,
Okay.
you might understand.
All
it a
right.
bit
Next,
better.
we go to section 18. This
Maybe.
adds the members of
I'm
the
just
General
teasing
Assembly
you.
to the list of people that
No, these bills are just
carry. I think there's been
regurgitated
a lot of
horseshit.
discussion
It's
about
the
that.
same
That
with-
was
It's regurgitation
adopted
from
and,
anti-gun groups and not
course,
actually
the discussion on
original thought from the senator or Congress.
No.
Senator, I think the
There's
House's
zero
resolute on
original
this
thought.
provision needs to go, so we treat all citizens of
Let's
South
just
Carolina
institute something else
equally,
that
and we don't
didn't work
create
20 years
a,
ago, but let's
special
try it again.
privilege for members
Yeah.
of the General
It's,
Assembly.
this shit's all regurgitated from Giffords. It's all the one feature
Chairman.
test stuff.
Senator Spartanburg.
It's all the stuff from 20 years
It's my
ago in
understanding that
1994.
Alabama had members of the General Assembly, clerks of court,
Excuse me,
and
30 years ago.
active clerks of court and active
Yeah.
public defenders. Is that correct?
Well, those I think
And
those
I'm
were already
old.
in. I think this one just added General Assembly. Those other folks were already in by previous action of us. Because
I didn't think the clerks.
And again, one of the guys
I
is
didn't think
teleconferencing
I think
because
the
he's
clerk,
got in.
yeah, it's already in both.
House added.
Those are locked.
The House, Mr. Chairman, the House added clerks of
He
court
said he
and
finally
public
got his
defenders.
nose quit bleeding.
And so the
Yeah.
Senate amendment
Oh, okay.
just added in
Yeah.
the Senate amendment included the clerks
Which
of court
means
and
he
public
was-
defenders, but it
he's
also
been
added
having,
members
you
of
know,
the legislature.
Right. And since both bodies have
It's-
already
it's-
voted
it
on
means
that, I
he's sick,
think they're
more or less.
in. The question is just General Assembly. And to the point of Representative Caskey and others who've made this point, I find it hard to justify that we get some special distinction.
You can't defend that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
It's a bad look, no matter how you look at it.
Right. Okay. Well, to avoid bad looks, we're going to go with the House version.
So take it out.
yes,
Take it out.
All right. Next is section 19. This has to do with searching. Let's see. The House language says a person openly carrying a weapon in accordance with this article does not give a law enforcement officer reasonable suspicion or probable cause to search, detain, or arrest. The Senate version says this article does not prevent a law enforcement officer from searching, detaining, or arresting a person when he has particularized an objective basis for suspecting the particular person stopped of criminal activity. A person merely carrying a weapon in accordance with this article is not sufficient to justify a search, detention, or arrest. And so I think the distinction that we had, certainly in my mind, was you could
Brother
almost
Gibbs, what's
read
up?
the House version to say that carrying a gun was a get out of jail free card. As long as you had the gun, they couldn't do anything to you. I think what the Senate was trying to say, yes, but if you also, on the other hand, have a bag of dope, just the fact that you got the gun doesn't insulate you from the charge that they might ordinarily charge you for. So I think the sentiment was the same, that just merely openly carrying a gun is not against the law. I mean, that's the whole point of what this bill is trying to do. But if you're doing something else,
Well, then you have
the fact
reasonable
that you got a
suspicion
gun
you
doesn't
can go arrest
insulate
the
you
person.
from
I
being
mean,
charged.
if you've got an
Um,
APB out on him, you should be able to arrest him.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you see
Senator, I
someone
agree with you.
selling
I
dope,
think the best
that's illegal.
way
That's a
forward would be
crime.
to adopt both provisions.
You can arrest
I
them.
think the
Yeah.
the House version is a generalized prohibition on using
mean,
the possession of a weapon
just
as a basis
just
for
carrying a gun
that custodial
you know, openly
interrogation or
does not
detention.
constitute
And then
them
I
breaking
think
the law unless
Senate
they're
language
carrying it in
creates
an area which they're not supposed to be
clarity
carrying.
for
Yeah.
the courts or law
I mean,
enforcement.
I don't see the
that,
problem.
Again, in the
I
circumstances
mean, if
like
they're
you
not
described,
hurting themselves or
possession of the
anybody,
weapon
if they're
is
not acting
alone
weird, if they're just
not,
going about their
enough to,
business, there should be no reason
to
why a cop should
not
go and fuck
stop.
with them.
But
No,
maybe I said that
there's
was a
none
double
at all.
negative. But if you
And-
were
and if
having
someone's
that bag
scared,
of dope hanging around your
tell
neck,
them to
the
go
officer
somewhere
could say,
else.
you do have the
Yeah,
pistol
this
on
is
your
a
hip,
free fucking
but you got
country.
a bag of dope, and so therefore I'm going to detain you to investigate that bag of dope around your neck. And I think the combination of these two sections together would best serve our state.
Right. I think I'll refer to staff. We can, as long as it's in one bill or the other, we can adopt it. We'll just have to renumber or make it an A and B type, because they both carry the
I
same.
don't think Gizzard's
number.
here right now. I think he's still asleep.
John's shaking his
Yeah,
head.
these
no.
are two.
Ken's shaking his head.
They
maybe.
commented 2 minutes ago.
Did he?
We can't accept
Yep.
both.
It's
I didn't
well,
see him
it's
out there.
on the bottom of page
Here's the
22.
thing,
It's
Warsaw's in,
there's clearly different language,
you're running around out
but
there.
it just has the same number. If they could
Okay.
be renumbered,
There he is. There he is. There.
Or just, yeah, don't number them. Just put them all in one paragraph.
well, that's true too.
It wasn't showing up. Not my fault. It's Rumble Studio.
I got to try Rumble Studio to see.
I don't know that.
Um,
I like it. I don't have
to
to pay
Mr.
for
to
it.
Mr.
And
Caskey's
it
point.
gives me all the features.
I don't know that they're really
StreamYard would,
contradictory.
but I can stream to Rumble
I mean,
and
so
YouTube
if we just
at the
make
same
it one
time.
paragraph, we can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So I've been
mean,
using
Mr.
StreamYard.
Chairman, I think
I like
guidance from
StreamYard, but the
council
problem is I don't want to pay
is
for it.
that if we do it as one
Yeah,
paragraph,
well, I don't either.
I mean,
put them
I
together,
could use GunTube
that-
Chamber, but the problem
that would
is
be-
We can
Proceed.
adopt
I'm-
all of the words. We just
I'm not doing
instead
that
of making
anymore.
it A and B, it'll all be a part of
I'm just going to
23.
use
31,
Rumble Studio because I'm
245.
using
Well,
Rumble a
that's-
lot.
Ask staff to figure out which sentence should go first and which sentence to go next. All right. All right. We'll
You got that?
we'll adopt the language of the House and the Senate on section 19. And we'll just merge it into one because they don't conflict. As you point out, they don't conflict. It's really more explanatory than it is contradictory. Okay. All right. Moving on to section 20, I believe is the next one. This was going to add CWP to the driver's license, and we've had some indication, I believe, from DMV that that's going to be problematic, just the way the driver's licenses are laid out. And I think people actually that have CWPs are proud to have their CWP cards anyway. That's the discussion I've heard that it's just
So the
technically gonna be-
DMV couldn't figure out how to put
Yes, sir.
an extra 3 initials on their driver's
Yes.
license.
I said this
No.
on the floor of the Senate. Right now, the CWP aren't subject to that FOIA. And I think even though somebody thinks it's a good idea, they end up setting themselves up to be on the FOIA list to know who's got a CWP through the driver's license record. So I'm good with getting it out
And
of
that
there.
would be an invasion of privacy.
Very much so. But hey, look,
Everybody's
California,
putting on their head with that,
with
so
that.
we'll
Well,
delete the
even though
Senate
California
language
wasn't
on
supposed
driver's
to, they
license.
still posted a list of people online.
And that,
Yeah.
that also does that also delete the 5-year random conduct of, or is that still in?
I think this was, if I remember correctly, this was an amendment that Senator Campson offered that it did a few different things. One of which was to put the CWP on the driver's license, but another thing was that I think, as he termed it, it put the CWP renewal on autopilot, so that you don't have to go through the application process to get the CWP renewed every 5 years. SLED will just automatically do the background check and go through that process. So, I mean, I would hope that we could eliminate the driver's license part of it, but maintain the autopilot renewal, because I think that would make it easier for permit holders.
So I would just see if I could get some of my staffs over there's attention. Since we're in 56.1.140, if we delete E1, which is it's in the driving code, it's in the 56 code. It looks like the automatic renewal of the CWPs on every 5 years. If we take it, it shouldn't be in the driving code, is what I'm saying.
Can we delete part of this, but not all of it?
And if we could, can we move the other part to a different section because it shouldn't be in the 56 code?
Or is that a,
I don't think we can move it,
All right.
but I think you could take like this first highlight.
Yep.
You take house version.
Well, there is no house version.
Correct. House is silent. So you take that the house is non-action as the action.
I understand that, but the problem is this is all geared to replacing a driver's license. And so there's no prefatory language.
What?
If you take that out,
No, you don't understand. They're saying
what would
just
be your
remove
first
that
sentence?
part where the
'Cause
driver's
you could say
license.
an applicant
and
for a
quit
new
it.
or renewed. It says replacement
Put it on the
driver's
house
license.
side.
What we really want to say is an applicant for a renewed CWP. But it doesn't say that.
I mean, that would be rewriting.
That's why I thought so too.
I don't think you can do
All right, so it looks like we're gonna because this is all written to the driver's license code, and that might be one of the things that Senator from Edgefield, if we're gonna do a cleanup bill to fix a few things, that we look at the renewal in that as well, because I don't think you can keep it in there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out that that's a courtesy to concealed weapons permit holders, but this bill's main function is to allow people that don't want permission from government to do their thing. So I'd agree to want to do something like that. I want to make it easier on my constituents to have it, but I think we do that in a cleanup bill rather than let hold the constitutional carry portion of it.
All right, Representative Bamberg.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that issue is better to just be dealt with later because, I mean, I'd be interested with that change. What else automatically renews? You know, passport, driver's license, hunting license, fishing license. I can't think of anything that auto renews, but also is invasive to the standpoint you're authorizing the government to automatically just run a background check on somebody.
You might find out something you
versus-
don't want to know.
Yeah, you know, so and what impact that has on SLED, because
Yeah.
that would put, if you take it out of the driver's license part, you're putting the onus now on SLED to keep up with all the numbers and auto run. And what happens if for some reason there's a gap and someone who was supposed to be background checked automatically didn't get background checked? I think that it's a little more nuanced once it comes out of the driver's license
Well,
piece.
staff is pointing out too, we're going to reconsider this when we get to section 22. So I think we can agree, 20 deals with driver's licenses, and I think everybody agrees to take that out.
take that out.
Okay, all right. So now we're moving on to 21 is an amendment that basically says if you have a prior conviction for UCAP, but now what
Everyone,
you
let me
were
know
charged
how
with
the
will now
audio
become
is. Can you
legal,
hear the guy?
that,
Can you hear this?
you can
Can you hear them all right? Do I need to turn them up?
apply
Let me know.
one time
It sounded good to
or
me.
an
Well,
expungement,
I'm looking on the YouTube side, not the in Rumble
because
Studio
we're
side.
legalizing that. and
I'm
if
just
it was
answering
said
for
last
me.
month,
Get all
it's
snappy
legal
with me.
this month. Why shouldn't you be able to get it expunged?
I do what
All right. So we'll take the Senate version on that.
hold on. I do what I want.
22 automatically renews the
Yeah,
CWP.
you gotta have the
That's what we
snaps
were
there.
just talking about. And so let's revisit that. This
All
doesn't
right, good.
tie
Thanks,
to your
guys.
driver's license. It's just an automatic renewal.
Mr. Chairman, there's a provision in P2 that references the driver's license that we could probably just take out, but P1 deals with the automatic renewal
Okay.
of the permit.
All right.
Absent.
And there was some discussion earlier that we really just wanted to leave this sort of pure constitutional carry and not get into the CWP part of that. I don't know if there's strong feelings about this automatic renewal.
I
or
guess
not.
the question there was if it's going to cause a problem with the drivers, if they're linked together,
Right.
should we just get rid of all of it? But if we can separate them, should we keep the automatic renewal? Because I think we can separate them here. But you can have the automatic renewal without any reference to driver's license.
Right. You'd have to take out the last sentence of section 1 and you'd have to take out all of section 2. So you really wouldn't even need the section. You wouldn't need to have the demarcation of the section. You could just run the sentence 1 onto the end of P.
Well,
Okay.
I would like to take out that last sentence of section 1 anyway, because I think 3 years ago we made the permit applications free.
Yeah.
Even for renewal. So I don't
Yeah,
want
they
to
did.
charge them anything for it. And I don't think they have been charging.
I had to renew mine
So,
this year.
All
Or this
right.
I don't
last
know
year.
that we, Senator, from
This last year I had to renew,
I don't know that we
and
have the
I
ability
did it
to just
online. and it was
salvage
free,
the first part of
and
section 1. But
I'm much happier
we'd have
for
to
it.
keep that last sentence, and on that basis, I would say that we just strike this section. And I think that's an issue we can address in the ephemeral cleanup bill we're talking about.
All right.
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator
Okay.
Medfield, you okay with that?
sounds like we're just going to take out all of it.
All right. Looks like we're with the idea that maybe we come back to that in another bill. We'll take out all of section 22. All right. Now we're
At least they're
down
getting shit done
to
right now, you know?
23.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're getting to work on it. Maybe they'll unfuck themselves and they'll actually get this passed.
This would be
Maybe.
adding the courses in, taught in every county, and SLED hiring independent contractors to do this. This was one of the essential things that kind of got the bill passed in the Senate, but Senator Ranchville?
Mr. Chairman, this was, as you just indicated, this was part of a larger amendment that is designed to encourage people to get the CWPs. I mean, it doesn't require you to get the CWP, of course, as Senator from Spartanburg pointed out, but this is part of the encouragement for that. And this provision,
If you do a lot of
makes
traveling or you go to other
the handgun
states
safety course,
infrequently,
um,
you may want to have a
free
CWP to prove
to
you can
the
carry, period.
students.
Yeah.
That's why you want a CWP.
So this
That's
was
the
part of
only
that
reason I
larger
would
amendment,
renew
which
my
ultimately
Alabama
allowed
carry.
the Senate to get the bill
And
over the hurdle.
That's the only reason why I continue to have
Any
mine.
comments on that?
Well, that
Representative
makes it
Cox.
easier to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
to-
Yeah, this was something that we
to-
debated
to
pretty
go and
heavily
buy a
when
gun,
the
but
Senate
still, you
version
know.
came back. The House ultimately did not concur, as of course is right here. But
Even if it's just a receiver.
we're always encouraging training. And we even put it in our House version. It's encouraged but not mandatory. This is something that a lot of CWP instructors had worry about because they thought business was going to get taken away from them. So I want to make the point that it won't be
Well,
SLED instructors. They'll
Then
actually
they need to start
contract local
instructing other things,
CWP
like they need to do
instructors that will actually
introductory
do this.
pistol and rifle
But as
courses.
the other measures that we're talking about, I encourage us to take a look
Instead
at
of
this
just
and see
do
if it's
instructing
cost
CWP
effective
only,
down the road, or
start
teaching
branching
classes
out.
that have one person as
Yeah.
opposed to 100 people.
Or is
So I
that
think
is
that's
that too
something
much
that
of
we
a
need to keep
thought?
our eye on as we pass this. If we pass
makes
this
too much
down the
sense.
road, if we could partner with that.
Oh dear.
I mean, I agree. There are going to be
Whatever
some
shall
small
we do?
counties would offer it twice a
Well,
month.
you know how that works. If it makes too much sense, these assholes will
Have to
never
be a
do
trainer
it.
anyway.
Oh
All right,
no.
we'll take, but I guess we'll just go with the Senate version and keep an eye on it. All right. Next is 24, which is also Senator Edgefield, is your amendment on the floor. You want to discuss that?
Yeah, this was part of that same scenario. I mean, same part of the same amendment, which to encourage the training. And this came about. The idea was to pattern the existing criminal offense of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, to try to pattern this thing after that type of
Remember,
offense
this
that's
is
been
live.
on
I
the
can't
books
pause it.
forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was an essential part of that amendment too, of the agreement too.
All right. Are we okay with that? Representative Vanderbilt?
Just from because I didn't see the Senate discussion on this part. So my question is this: if the CWP is not required, and now you can constitutionally carry, and when we think about crimes involving a concealable weapon, there's a lot of things that happen that don't start out with an intention to use a firearm to commit a crime or something like that. Or what does it actually mean to commit a crime with a concealable weapon? Is it really fair to, I guess, punish those particular folks more severely than the ones who choose to get a CWP when the state doesn't require it anymore? Like I would keep my CWP for purposes of travel, being able to carry in Georgia or whatever the case is. That would be my biggest concern is again, anything geared towards selective enforcement when the topic is and is coined as a constitutional right to do something. And now we up the penalty on somebody because they chose the constitutional right instead of the voluntary thing of actually getting a CWP. That I just wasn't a part of those discussions, so I don't know.
I think this doesn't necessarily just apply to people with CWPs. It uses the word concealable weapon, but not license holder, not CWP holder. I think this applies to the constitutional carry folks as well.
But
So
is all right, if a person with a valid concealed permit to carry a concealable weapon under the language, they're not, so the offense wouldn't apply to them, or is that right?
yeah. So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, as you know, and you do a fair amount of criminal work, I think. But
Hell no, I try to dodge that.
okay, all
Bubba.
right. Well, then, so the existing offense of
I gotta turn my
of
AC on
possession
this
of a
hot
weapon
here.
during the commission of a violent crime does not require that you actually use the weapon during the commission of the violent crime. It doesn't even require that you present the weapon during the commission of the violent crime. You just have to have possession of it, right? You can be lawfully possessing the weapon. And the violent crime could just be a severe beating in which the weapon is never used. But even if you're lawfully possessing that weapon, if you do possess it during the commission of that crime, it is a separate offense. And so this is patterned after that. The other thing that I think is important to point out here is, y'all, we're talking about criminals now, right? So as long as I've been hearing about constitutional carry, the idea has been, what has always been articulated to me, is that law-abiding gun owners shouldn't have to get permission in order to carry. That law-abiding gun owners shouldn't have to get a permit before they can carry. That if you can legally buy a gun, you ought to be able to carry the gun.
Damn straight.
Now, for those who've been attacking this provision, the focus has shifted. So now it's not just about legal gun owners anymore. It's not just about law-abiding citizens. We're talking now about criminals. Because in order for this section ever to apply, you first have to be convicted of having violated a gun crime. That this provision never comes into play if you're not first convicted of having violated one of the gun laws. And the laws are, I mean, we're talking about here shooting into a dwelling. We're talking about sneaking a gun into a school. We're talking about pointing a weapon at somebody, right? Those are the offenses for which you could have the additional penalty. These are also offenses where if you'd taken the handgun safety class and you'd been informed of what the law is, you would have known that you can't do some of these things, right? But again, this applies only to criminals, people who have been convicted of violating the law already.
The way
And
some
so,
of your stupid shit
you know,
reads,
if the
if I'm in a
idea
school
is
zone
to
with my
ensure
firearm,
that
I'm somehow breaking
folks
the
who are
law. That's a
law-abiding can carry
firearms
without
crime, and I could be
having to get a
prosecuted
permit.
underneath
The
this
bill
shit.
absolutely does that, but it encourages you to get a permit. And this is one of the ways that it does that.
I
But
still had your tab
I
open
think-
from last
I think
night,
it's
too.
perfectly consistent with the Constitution.
You just want to
and-
relive the nightmare.
But there's always an opportunity for people to
No,
sue
I
who
had
disagree with
nightmares
me.
last night. I didn't get any sleep.
Ugh.
All right. Further discussion?
And you know what it started? It started with
Yeah, Representative.
some
I
lady
just would
standing
note,
up saying,
because I know that there are
"Did you
people
know
who put a lot of
that?"
interest in this
Oh, God.
in this issue, and rightly so.
I
That
got
that
PTSD.
my
from
own
that.
feelings, if I had the
Are
magic
you
wand, we
aware
would
of-
not have this provision, but I'm
It's-
unwilling
Did you
to
know?
let
Did
that
you know?
stop
Did
us
you
from
know?
getting this bill
Did you
across
know
the
that?
finish line. And while this may not be something that we're going to put
Makes
on
me want to
our
walk into my
first
kitchen,
order,
grab a frying
cleanup
pan,
bill,
and smack myself dead.
at least not with our
know.
current
Just to
makeup
stop
of
the
the respective
pain.
bodies, but something in the future to certainly visit. And I appreciate the senator's forthrightness and making clear that the votes simply aren't there to pass this without it. And that's a hard reality in the legislative process that those who are new to it need to acquaint themselves with, because if you don't have the votes, you don't have a bill. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I mean, the senator from Spartanburg has said, I've heard him say a number of times that he thought he had the votes to get the bill passed. He just didn't have the votes to get to the vote to get it passed.
And that may be back
and-
where he is unless we do this.
Right. And this, yeah, right. But this was the amendment that allowed him to get to the vote to pass the bill. And I think without that provision, it probably would not have gotten to that vote. And I think the senator from Spartanburg agreed with that, as he said it a number of times. So.
All right. Well, with that, I think the understanding is
Yeah,
we'll.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to explain in case anybody can comment or listen online that in the Senate, it takes 24 votes to pass something, but it takes 26 votes to get to the vote, which Senator from Edgefield just mentioned. Me personally, I agree with Representative Caskey. I would love to take this section out and move down the road. But what happens when we take this section out and go to the Senate and we don't have the votes?
I think the message is received, and we'll go with the Senate version. All right.
Well,
And
Yeah,
look, there
I don't
is,
like it, but
I understand there's going to be a
that's what I have
cleanup
to do.
bill, and this can be discussed at that time if there's still some angst about it. But for right now, we'll go with the Senate version. All right. That leaves us down to two other things. One is the age, and I think this is a matter of consistency. We were thinking that it ought to be 18, that they're adults at 18. Any discussion?
And also the as we understood the House language, you could carry without a permit at 18. So we're just trying to make it.
We don't want to discourage.
We don't want to
anybody.
discourage people from getting the permit.
Okay.
So it just makes them equal.
All right.
And there is some concern. I've heard, Mr. Chairman, from some school officials that there are still high school students who are 18 years old. And so there's concern about the high school students bringing a weapon to school. I mean, they couldn't carry it in the school. Obviously, it would have to stay in a secured compartment within the vehicle. But there is concern about that from some school officials. That may be something that we need to look at some point in the future as well, to ensure that if you're a student, that you not bring it to the school property.
Right. And I believe also changing it possibly does away with a lawsuit that we're already paying to defend. So,
yeah.
All right. Representative Bamber.
I will say this part kind of gives me a little bit of concern. And it's kind of one of those things where, for example, at 18, you can go into the service, you can do this and that, you can vote. And it would make sense in that light, that an 18-year-old who is an adult under the law be able to constitutionally carry if our state is going that way. But then it also leads me to, it's kind of like a Twilight Zone Matrix aspect of the state where, like, at 18, you can't drink, you can't go buy alcohol. So we're going to say at 18, and Mr. Chair, you pointed out that there are people who are 18 and still in high school, depending on when their birthday falls. And at 18, our state doesn't trust you enough to have a beer. Or if, and I don't have kids, but let's say my son, 18 years old, got into college, I want to celebrate and, hey, have a beer with your dad. Technically, I'd be violating the law. But then they can also go all over the state other than these places that you're not allowed to carry, and they can walk around with loaded handguns and stuff like that. So I would be remiss if I didn't just bring that up. Obviously I don't want to hold the bill up. I do completely understand, but I think that our state has to,
Alcohol is a
going this
minor
route,
substance.
then we got to look at,
Guns
you're
are
an
not
adult
minor.
at 18, you're
True,
an adult.
but
And I'm
look
not
at it
saying
this
an
way,
18-year-old
okay?
should be able to
When
buy
I turned
alcohol.
18,
That's just an
I
example.
can buy a pack of cigarettes
They're-
all day
they're-
long. When I turned, but the thing is,
the
I couldn't
maturity
drink
level of
legally until I was 21.
individuals at different ages. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
See how that
goes into
works?
it. But I do understand why the Senate.
Again, we get back to that kind of
I just
mind
wanted to
altering deal.
say that
Cigarettes.
for
Two
the record.
addictive
Well,
substances.
I share your
one you can
concerns,
get at
but at the
18,
same
the
time,
other you
if we,
can't.
and I'm not in favor of going down this road, but if
Yeah.
we're going down this road, we
Well,
don't
I'm
want to
for
discourage
legal
drinking.
drinking age to 18. So
I think that
I mean, if
everybody
you
ought
want to
be
reduce it
trained,
18,
but,
I'd be
I'm
happy
not
with it.
prevailing
I don't mind.
settlement on that. So we will go with the Senate
It used
version
to
on
be
that.
18
That
back
leaves
in
us
the
with the
day, then they
severability
changed it to
clause.
21.
I don't know why we would not
And it
adopt
hasn't.
severability. Yes, sir.
Back to 18,
Sir, I just
Cole.
wanted to share for those who may be watching who
Yeah.
are convinced that Senator Massey's Amendment 36, which was the Section 24 argument that we had with respect to different punishments, if they're right about the constitutionality, this is the way that we save the whole bill by adopting that. So I wholeheartily support the adoption of our severability clause.
All right. So with that, I'm going to ask staff, did we pass over anything? Did we get did we address everything? Okay. Senator from Spartanburg.
I was just going to agree with Representative Cassidy. That's why I put that in before the big deal came out. So I want that severability clause in there.
All right. Well, you prevailed on that, and it looks like you're going to prevail on getting a bill at least out of the conference committee. We'll see what happens on the floor of the respective bodies, but we've addressed all of the sections, and so I will now entertain a motion to have staff draft what we have articulated here today into a conference report and present it to us for signature once that can be done. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's motion and second to move this bill to a conference report. And I'll just say, as I alluded to just before, I think training is important for everybody. And so I just don't think that this is a good idea. And I hope I'm wrong about that. And I hope that the language
Well,
that
you're a
I've
Democrat,
heard,
of course
that this is
you're right.
only for law advising citizens and they're all going to do the right thing, that
Of course,
those
training's a good thing,
components of the bill
but
are
it
right
shouldn't be
about
government
that.
mandated.
But we will wait and see. But with that, the motion is, and it's been seconded, to take the language we've adopted here today and put it in a conference report and to present it to the members of this committee for their signatures at the appropriate time. And so we'll go to a vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Oh, and Senator Martin voted aye in case anybody did not. Bloody nose and all. I mean, he hung in there to the very end and voted aye. Thank you, Senator, for being with us. We'll see you live in just a little while.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to thank, while there's still people watching, how this conference committee works. Some people may not know that the senior most senator becomes the chairman of the conference committee. I just want to publicly thank you, even though you disagreed with this bill, that you took your role as chairman seriously. You worked and brought this committee together, and I just want to thank you for that, for any of the naysayers out there that might have thought something nefarious was going on because you were chairing the committee. Just want to
Well,
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Definitely
I can be
nefarious.
nefarious at times. We'll stand adjourned.
Okay.
Well, looks like they got it. They got it squared. Looks like they've reconciled everything. So
So
now they've
if
got to wait.
anybody else wants to jump in, just send me an email, nightstrike@gmail.com, and we can have a little commentary on this. Other than that, I'm just going to turn this off now and bring up the ugly mugs of mine and Coop.
Yep. That'll wake everybody up this morning.
All right, let's see. There we go. Yep. There's Coop. I haven't turned my camera on, so let me go get a shirt on, and then I'll turn my camera on.
Yeah, for the love of God.
Well, yeah, because I'm hairier than an ape.
All you're wearing is a thong right now, more than likely. So yeah, don't scare everybody like that.
No, I don't have the thong on today. I just have jeans.
Yeah, you have the genes of a gorilla.
Hey, look, there's a gorilla on screen.
Hey. Oh God. So yeah, hopefully South Carolina, they got it out of, well, they got to do the committee report, sign the committee report, and then it should go to the House first, get voted on, then go to the Senate.
Hopefully they get their shit together, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the debates again on this are going to be absolutely hysterical, more than likely. So,
yeah.
But hopefully they get it together. They passed everything last time. They just couldn't get their versions together. So now they've got the versions together. Maybe they can get this all the way through without a whole lot of BS.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll see. I mean, Louisiana's done beat you guys. Well, I don't think the governor's signed their bill yet, but it's
the governor hasn't signed it. I don't think he has yet.
I don't think he has either, but he should be signing at any time.
Yeah, I think they are technically 28. I guess we'll be 29.
That's all right, as long as it gets signed, as long as you guys get what you need out of the bill.
Yeah, as long as it gets done this year, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because I've been following it for the last 7.
Yep.
There's not a Senator Larry Martin in there anymore, and he was the one that kept killing constitutional carry every time. Every time it went to a committee, he kept killing it. By the way, he's related to Such. And I'm like, and Such got angry when I badmouthed, and I'm like, Such, he keeps killing constitutional carry. He's like, I know, I've talked to him about it. Well, obviously you didn't stick.
Yeah, well, apparently you need to talk to him some more.
Yeah,
a lot more.
That's the problem with some of the upstate South Carolinians. They're like, anyway,
Yeah.
some of the upstate ones are more anti-gun than the ones downstate.
And all of our states have that group where they might be called conservative or something like that, but they're still just anti-gun as they can fucking.
They're still blue dog.
Yeah. We've got them here in Alabama. That's like when constitutional carry was going to go through. Hell, I talked to a couple of them on the phone. And one of them actually wasn't too bad. He was like, I don't like the guns. I don't like the carry. I'm going to vote for it. I'm not, not a gun guy. I was like, okay, I can understand that, but
you don't have to be a gun guy to vote.
You don't have to be a gun guy
for people to keep their constitutional rights, dude.
Yeah, you just have to be honest with this. These permits haven't stopped criminals from carrying at all. The criminals are still carrying. All you're doing is you're taking.
There appears to be multiple reports of social media outages. Cyber attack is trending. Well, maybe it's Russia.
Oh, I don't know. I wish they'd go ahead and kick this shit off here. Let me look since I've already got X up.
Yeah.
Cyber attack's trending.
Ooh. Cyber attack's trending. Yay.
Let's see what the latest is. I can pull up real fast.
Yeah, Logitech capture.
It says something about one guy said the IG wasn't working.
Well, what was that? What was that you always say? Quit messing with it. It ain't your pecker.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep.
Quit yanking on it. Ain't your pecker. Just Facebook and IG went down.
There we go.
Which I haven't done anything even halfway serious on Facebook in forever. So.
All right, there. My camera works, kind of, but not really.
This one says Discord, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp.
Yo. See, my camera works, kind of, but not really. I think I'm gonna have to shave soon.
Facebook and Instagram are down across the board. Super Tuesday, Election Day, coincidence? Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
I still have not decided whether I'm even going to mess with voting.
Air quotes. GunTube is down. I can tell you that right now. The main site is down because why? Because I'm fucking working on it. That's why. So that's not down by a cyber attack. That's down because I'm working on it. So reboot the server and fix your internet. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Are you sure you're not the one who's got Facebook and everything shut down right now? You went to flip one switch and ended up flipping more?
No, it doesn't work like that. Gary knows better. He's just trying to be funny.
That's messed up. Tom would never let this happen.
It's like not my fault. So, well, guys, I think that's it. We'll since there's nobody else jumping in, we'll see you guys later. This was constitutional carry part 9. We probably got another 15 parts to go on both the Senate and the House, so this will be fun.
It's going to be interesting, but at least coming through conference committee, they've reconciled everything that they wanted to reconcile. So maybe we'll see a smoother progression for you guys.
Joe,
at some point, I don't know whether I'll do it today or not. I'm going to do a video about Alabama's assault weapons ban that got introduced. I'm looking to see whether there's public hearings yet, and there's not, because if there's a public hearing, I'm going to that.
Look at the last 2 comments. Joe was like, well, did you know that it was my pecker? Laugh out loud.
Yeah, I see that now. I had to switch over to YouTube.
He was like, user Gary's like, oh no, this is the only thing working on the internet. Laugh out loud. Well, that's rough.
This is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
But hey, at least I mean, we're going to give you the straight up, opinion on stuff and news. We're not just going to blow smoke up you.
Right. And I'm going to send, Coop more pictures of my wood.
Yeah.
And his wife is going to like those pictures too.
Did I ever show you pictures of my blue ballers?
No, you didn't.
I didn't. I have to send you pictures of them.
But I do have a set of blue balls for you.
Do you?
Yes. You guys will find it hilarious once I actually send it to him, because Coop will do a video on it. It'd be great.
Yeah.
It's great. Anyways, guys, we'll get out of here.
Get out of here, man. I'm gonna go figure out what I'm doing for the rest of the day before I go to work.
Thank you all for showing up and commenting with us. All right, how do I turn this damn thing off?
Hit the leave stream.
I think it's end stream.
Well, my